The
I don't
Apache
know what
woman
else
fell
to
to her
do.
knees. "I can serve you if you let me
Please,
live."
you must help us.
Birds chirped softly, and the children ran barefoot through the dirt paths, laughing without a care. It seemed like any other day, but Nayeli's instincts told her that something was not right. She had grown up in this village, and she had learned to read the land, the winds, and even the subtle shifts in the behavior of her people. Today, the signs whispered danger. Nayeli was strong and brave, though she carried a softness in her eyes that reflected both compassion and fear. She had grown into a young woman respected by her family and neighbors. Her father was a skilled hunter, and her mother taught her the ways of herbs and medicine. Nayeli had learned many skills from them, but nothing had prepared her for what was about to come. It began slowly. First, she noticed smoke curling above the distant hills. At first, she thought it might be the morning fire from another camp, but then she saw the movement of figures between the trees. Shadows flickered, and the sound of hoofbeats and shouting reached her ears. Nayeli's heart sank. The village was under attack. Panic surged through the streets as the attackers descended upon their homes. Nayeli grabbed her younger brother's hand and pulled him toward the shelter of a nearby grove. Mothers shouted for their children, and fathers tried to gather what they could to defend the village. Nayeli's mind raced. She wanted to fight to protect her family, but the numbers of the attackers were overwhelming. She saw friends and neighbors being struck down, their screams echoing through the air. Her brother trembled in her grip, and she felt a surge of protectiveness. "We have to hide," she whispered. She pulled him behind a large rock, trying to make herself small, almost invisible. She watched as the attackers moved through the village, burning and taking what they could. Her stomach twisted in fear and anger. How could this happen so suddenly? How could they be so cruel? As Nayeli crouched in the shadow of the rock, she saw her father fighting bravely, but he was outnumbered. He had always been strong and fearless, but even he could not hold back the attackers alone. Her mother was screaming for the children, trying to guide them to safety, but the chaos was too great. Nayeli realized that staying hidden was no longer enough. She needed to act, but she did not know how. A sudden shout drew her attention. One of the attackers had spotted a small group of villagers trying to escape. Nayeli's father raised his spear, but it was too late. The attackers overpowered them, and Nayeli felt a chill run through her body. Her father fell, and she could see the fear in his eyes, the same fear she felt in her own heart. Her brother clung to her, crying softly. Nayeli felt tears sting her eyes, but she could not let herself break down completely. She needed to survive. The attackers were moving closer, searching for anyone hiding. Nayeli knew that if they found her and her brother, they would not hesitate. She took a deep breath and whispered to him, "Stay behind me. Whatever happens, we will stay together." Her voice was steady, though her heart was racing. She had never felt so small and helpless, yet a strange determination rose within her. She would do whatever it took to survive. Suddenly, a hand grabbed her shoulder. Nayeli spun around, expecting another attacker, but it was a young girl from the village, barely older than her brother. "Come quickly," the girl whispered. "Follow me." Nayeli nodded and led her brother through the underbrush, trying to avoid the main path. They moved silently, hearts pounding, as the sounds of destruction grew louder behind them. They came upon a small clearing, and Nayeli realized it was surrounded. There was nowhere else to run. Her brother clung to her, shaking, and Nayeli felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. She could not let him die. She could not let herself die. She needed a plan, but there was little time to think. The leader of the attackers, a tall man with a stern face and cold eyes, appeared at the edge of the clearing. Nayeli recognized him from distant encounters. He was feared by many tribes, known for his ruthlessness. He raised his hand, and the others froze in place. Nayeli's heart sank. She knew that this man would not stop until he had taken what he wanted. Nayeli dropped to her knees in front of him, her body trembling. She felt exposed and vulnerable, but she forced herself to speak, her voice clear despite the fear. "Please," she said, "I can serve you if you let me live." She did not know if the words would save her, but she had to try. Her brother hid behind her, peeking out with wide, fearful eyes. The man stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Nayeli could feel his gaze burning into her, judging her worth. She held her breath, praying that her offer was enough. Finally, he nodded slightly. "You will serve me," he said. "If you fail, you will die." Nayeli swallowed hard, relief washing over her in waves. She had survived, but she knew her life would never be the same. As she was led away, Nayeli glanced back at her village. Smoke rose from the remains of her home, and she saw the bodies of friends and family. Her heart ached, but she pushed the grief aside, focusing on survival. She had promised herself she would stay alive, and now she had a chance. In the days that followed, Nayeli learned the harsh realities of her new life. She was given tasks that tested her strength and patience. She cooked, cleaned, and attended to the needs of her captors. Each day was a struggle to maintain her dignity and spirit. She observed the people around her carefully, learning their habits and weaknesses. Though she was a servant, she realized that knowledge was power. At night, when she could be alone, Nayeli thought of her family and her village. She missed them deeply, and tears often came unbidden. Yet, she reminded herself that survival was the first step toward justice, toward reclaiming what had been taken. She began to plan, even in small ways, how she might one day return, how she might protect others from the same fate. Despite the fear and sorrow, Nayeli's spirit was not broken. She discovered a resilience she had not known she possessed. Each task she completed, each challenge she faced, strengthened her resolve. She learned to move quietly, to speak carefully, and to watch and listen. She was no longer just a girl from the village. She was a survivor, learning the rules of a world that had turned cruel overnight. As weeks passed, Nayeli began to notice small opportunities. She saw how the attackers communicated, how they trusted and distrusted one another. She learned to anticipate their actions, to protect herself and her brother in subtle ways. Though she was still captive, she had begun to regain a sense of control, however limited. Nayeli realized that survival was more than avoiding death. It was about holding onto hope, even when everything seemed lost. She promised herself that she would not only survive but endure, that she would find a way to turn her captivity into strength. Every day, she reminded herself that life was precious, and she would do whatever it took to keep hers. The memory of falling to her knees and begging for her life would never leave her. It was a moment of fear and submission, but also of courage. In that moment, Nayeli had chosen life over despair, hope over surrender. She had made a decision that would shape her journey, that would test her in ways she could not yet imagine. Though the road ahead was uncertain, Nayeli faced it with determination. She knew that survival required patience, cleverness, and courage. Each day brought new challenges, but she met them with a steady heart and a mind focused on the future. She had fallen to her knees once, but she would rise again, stronger and wiser than before. Nayeli's first days in the captor's camp were some of the hardest she had ever experienced. Every sound, every movement seemed to carry danger. The camp was surrounded by tall wooden fences, and guards watched the entrances constantly. Nayeli quickly realized that even the smallest mistake could cost her life. She had survived the raid, but surviving here meant learning rules she had never known. Her mornings began before the sun had fully risen. She would gather water from the nearby stream, fill large buckets, and carry them to the cooking area. She learned to make fires that would not smoke too much, to cook meals that were edible even when ingredients were limited, and to clean the camp so that her captors' homes remained tidy. It was hard work, and her muscles ached, but Nayeli did not complain. She knew that showing strength quietly could earn her some measure of safety. At first, the other captives ignored her. Some were older, some younger, but all seemed wary. A few whispered that she might be foolish for thinking she could survive by serving the people who had destroyed her village. Nayeli listened carefully to their words but said nothing. She had learned early that silence could protect her, that sometimes observing was better than speaking. The leader who had spared her life, a man named Tavon, watched her closely. Nayeli had noticed his sharp eyes and the way he studied her. She was careful around him, showing respect without losing her dignity. She understood that he valued loyalty and usefulness, but he did not trust easily. Nayeli realized that her survival depended on earning that trust, even if it meant being clever and patient. Slowly, Nayeli began to understand the routines of the camp. She noticed which guards were kind, which ones were cruel, and which captives had ways of gaining small freedoms. She saw that even small gestures of kindness, like helping an injured animal or quietly assisting another captive, could create alliances. Nayeli began to help where she could, carefully, without drawing too much attention to herself. Her nights were filled with thoughts of her family and home. She would sit quietly by the fire, her brother sleeping beside her, and remember the faces of her parents, the laughter of her friends, and the beauty of her village. Sometimes tears came, but Nayeli allowed them only when she was alone. She had to stay strong, not just for herself but for her brother. She knew he depended on her for comfort and guidance, and she could not fail him. Over time, Nayeli discovered that learning the language and habits of her captors was one of the most important steps towards survival. She listened carefully as they spoke, repeated words quietly when no one was watching, and practiced their customs. She realized that understanding them could make her less of a target and might even give her a chance to influence events. Knowledge, she discovered, was a kind of power that did not come from weapons but from the mind. One day, a young child in the camp fell seriously ill. Nayeli knew just what to do. She gathered herbs from the surrounding woods, boiled them carefully, and gave them to the child in small, careful doses. The child improved slowly, and the parents looked at her with gratitude. Tavon noticed her efforts too. For the first time, Nayeli saw a hint of approval in his eyes. It was small, but it mattered. He began to speak to her more, asking her advice or instructions for certain tasks. Nayeli realized that she could make herself valuable without losing her sense of self. Even with these small victories, Nayeli faced challenges every day. Some captors were cruel, punishing her or others for the smallest mistakes. She learned quickly to hide her fear, to move with calm precision, and to speak only when necessary. She learned the importance of timing, knowing when to act, when to wait, and when to speak. Each day tested her in new ways, and each day she grew stronger. Nayeli also discovered moments of quiet beauty and humanity within the camp. She saw captors who laughed at simple jokes, who helped each other without being asked, and who shared stories around the fire. These moments reminded her that even in a harsh world, people were not entirely cruel. They had hearts and emotions just like her. She began to think carefully about how to use this knowledge. By understanding both the cruelty and kindness in people, she could navigate the dangers more safely. One afternoon, Nayeli was asked to help prepare for a special ceremony in the camp. It was a gathering of leaders and warriors, and the preparations were intricate. She carefully cleaned the area, arranged the seats, and prepared food. During the event, she observed the leaders, noting their behaviors and relationships. She realized that even among those who seemed powerful, there were weaknesses, disagreements, and opportunities. She understood that patience and careful observation could give her an edge, a way to protect herself and those she cared about. Through these experiences, Nayeli also developed a subtle strategy for gaining the trust of her captors. She would complete tasks flawlessly, offer quiet advice when it was needed, and avoid unnecessary attention. She learned to anticipate their needs, sometimes before they even realized what they wanted. In doing so, she gradually became someone they relied on, someone who could not be easily replaced. Yet she never allowed herself to become blind to their danger. She remained cautious, always alert. Despite her growing abilities, Naomi never forgot the pain of losing her village. Each night, memories of fire, screams, and the faces of her family haunted her, but she used these memories as motivation rather than despair. She promised herself that one day she would find a way to reclaim her life, to honor her family's memory, and perhaps to help others who faced similar threats. Her determination became her shield, keeping fear from consuming her entirely. One evening, Tavan approached her while she was quietly mending clothes. He spoke to her for the first time without the presence of others. "You are clever," he said. "You learn quickly and think ahead." "That is rare." Naomi bowed slightly, acknowledging his words without overconfidence. She knew that praise from him was dangerous as well as valuable. It could be a test, a way to see how she would react. She smiled faintly and said, "I only wish to survive." Tavan nodded slowly. "Survival is the first step," he said, "but there are many paths beyond it." His words puzzled Naomi, but she sensed meaning in them. Perhaps he recognized her potential, not just as a servant, but as someone capable of navigating the complexities of the world around her. Naomi felt a spark of hope, though she kept it carefully hidden. Life in the camp became a rhythm, a balance between fear, work, and careful observation. Naomi learned to move quietly, to read the moods of those around her, and to anticipate danger. She also discovered moments of subtle joy, sharing a small smile with a fellow captive, noticing a bird's song, or helping her brother learn new skills. These small victories reminded her that even in captivity, life could be meaningful. As months passed, Naomi's confidence grew. She realized that serving others did not mean losing herself. By learning, observing, and carefully choosing when to speak or act, she could protect herself and her brother. She could survive, and perhaps one day she could reclaim more than just her life. She began to plan quietly, imagining a future where she might return to her people, or perhaps build a new path entirely. Even as she worked and served, Naomi's mind remained sharp. She noticed alliances forming among the captors, rivalries, and moments of weakness. She stored these observations carefully, understanding that knowledge could be her greatest tool. Each day was a lesson in patience, observation, and courage. Naomi also began to understand her own resilience. She had fallen to her knees in fear once, begging for her life, but now she moved with a quiet strength. Her spirit was not broken. She had adapted, learned, and grown. Though her path was still uncertain, she had discovered a power she had never known. The power to endure, to learn, and to prepare for whatever challenges might come next. By the time her first year in captivity had passed, Naomi was no longer just a frightened girl from a destroyed village. She had become someone who could navigate the dangers of the camp, who could survive in harsh conditions, and who could quietly influence events around her. Her bond with her brother remained strong, and together they found small ways to maintain hope. Naomi knew that the journey ahead would not be easy, but she faced it with courage and intelligence. She had learned the importance of patience, observation, and careful action. She had discovered that survival required both strength and subtlety, and she had embraced both. Though she remained a captive, she had found ways to turn her situation into an opportunity for growth, learning, and quiet empowerment. And in her heart, Naomi carried the hope that one day she would see her village again, reclaim her freedom, and honor the memory of those she had lost. That hope, quietly nurtured, became her guiding light in the darkness of captivity, reminding her that even in the harshest circumstances, life could still be meaningful, and survival was only the first step toward something greater. As the seasons changed, Naomi began to settle into the rhythm of life in the captor's camp. The fear that had once consumed her was still present, but it had transformed into a careful awareness. She had learned to read people, to notice the smallest details in their behavior, and to anticipate danger. More importantly, she had discovered the power of earning trust, of showing value without surrendering her dignity. It started with small acts. Naeli noticed a wounded horse struggling near the edge of the camp. Most captors ignored it, thinking it was weak or useless. Naeli, however, saw potential. She carefully approached the animal, soothing it with gentle words and careful touches. She cleaned its wounds and fed it, working quietly so that no one would accuse her of wasting her time. By the next morning, the horse was stronger, able to carry supplies and perform duties again. Some of the captors began to notice her skill and careful attention. Through this act, Naeli realized a vital truth: service and usefulness could become a form of protection. The captors were not evil in every way. They valued skill, intelligence, and dedication. By proving herself in ways that benefited them, she could carve a place of relative safety in a dangerous world. Yet she never let herself forget who she was. She remained cautious, always aware that trust could be a fragile thing, and that one mistake could undo all her progress. Her relationship with Tavon, the leader who had spared her life, began to change. He started to speak with her directly more often, asking for her opinions on matters small and large. Naeli learned to listen carefully, to answer in ways that were thoughtful but never overconfident. She observed his moods, noting when he was cautious, when he was angry, and when he was pleased. Through these observations, she began to understand the balance of power in the camp. One evening, Tavon called her to his tent. "You have been learning quickly," he said. "Not everyone can adapt as you have. There is value in intelligence and patience." Naeli bowed respectfully, hiding her nervousness. "I only wish to serve well and learn," she replied softly. Tavon nodded, a faint smile appearing on his face. Though he had never been warm, Naeli sensed that he respected her growing competence. With this respect came responsibility. Naeli was asked to organize supplies, manage small tasks for other captives, and oversee certain routines in the camp. These duties required careful attention and trustworthiness. She took them seriously, completing each task with precision. The captors began to see her as someone reliable, someone whose contributions could not be ignored. Naeli realized that she was slowly gaining influence in subtle ways, but influence came with danger. Some captors were jealous of her skills and the attention she received from Tavon. They whispered behind her back, criticizing her, accusing her of seeking too much attention. Naeli had to navigate these challenges carefully. She learned to respond with humility, to show competence without arrogance, and to avoid unnecessary conflict. Each interaction became a lesson in diplomacy, patience, and subtle strategy. Meanwhile, Naeli never stopped thinking about her family and her village. Each night, she and her brother would sit quietly under the stars, sharing stories of the past and imagining a future that might one day be free from captivity. Her brother looked up to her, trusting her judgment and guidance. Naeli realized that protecting him was just as important as protecting herself. She taught him how to observe quietly, how to move carefully, and how to understand people's moods, all skills that could keep them safe. As her confidence grew, Naeli began to take small risks. She would help other captives without drawing attention, offering advice or assistance that could prevent harm. She learned to act subtly, to balance her desire to do good with the need for self-preservation. Each successful act increased her standing quietly in the camp, while also strengthening her sense of purpose. One day, a crisis occurred. A group of outsiders arrived at the camp, bringing news of a nearby raid that could threaten the captors' safety. Tavon was concerned and called a meeting to discuss the next steps. Naeli observed carefully as the captors argued, some advocating caution, others insisting on aggressive action. She noticed patterns in their behavior, alliances forming, and moments of weakness that could be useful in the future. After the meeting, Tavon spoke to her privately. "You are clever," he said. "You see what others do not. That is rare." I need someone who can help me prepare quietly and efficiently. Naeli understood the importance of the task. It was dangerous, but it was also an opportunity to demonstrate her loyalty and intelligence. She accepted the responsibility, careful to hide any fear she felt. Naeli began to work closely with Tavon, organizing supplies, preparing strategies, and ensuring that tasks were completed without drawing unnecessary attention. Through her efforts, she earned a small measure of trust that was unusual for someone in her position. She realized that her ability to remain calm under pressure, to think ahead, and to act with careful precision made her a valuable ally, even to those who had once been her captors. But Naeli's growing influence was not without tension. Some captors grew suspicious of her abilities and the attention she received from Tavon. They whispered warnings to one another, questioning her motives and loyalty. Naeli learned to listen to these whispers without reacting hastily. She understood that subtlety and discretion were her greatest allies. One wrong word or action could destroy the trust she had worked so hard to build. Despite the challenges, Naeli found moments of quiet satisfaction. She saw the results of her efforts, the camp running more smoothly, captives receiving better care, and even Tavon showing respect in small ways. These moments reminded her that intelligence, patience, and courage could be more powerful than brute force. She had learned to survive, but she had also learned to thrive quietly within a dangerous world. Her relationship with her brother remained central to her life. She taught him not only practical skills, but also the importance of observing, understanding, and thinking ahead. She encouraged him to remain cautious, to notice details others overlooked, and to learn from both successes and mistakes. Naeli understood that raising him to be aware and capable was as important as her own survival. As time passed, Naeli's confidence in her abilities grew, and she began to plan for the future more deliberately. She imagined ways to protect herself and her brother, to gain even more understanding of the captor's plans, and perhaps one day to reclaim freedom. Though these plans were tentative and cautious, they gave her a sense of purpose that went beyond mere survival. One evening, while tending to the fire, Naeli noticed Tavon approaching. He spoke quietly, almost casually, but there was a seriousness in his tone. "I have begun to rely on your judgment more than I expected," he said. Naeli bowed slightly, her heart beating faster than usual. She recognized the significance of his words. Trust had been earned, and with it came both opportunity and responsibility. Naeli realized that she had reached a turning point. She was no longer just a captive trying to survive. She had become someone whose intelligence, careful observation, and dedication were recognized even by those who had once been her enemies. Yet she remained humble, cautious, and aware that trust was fragile. Every day was a lesson in balance, between obedience and subtle influence, between patience and action, between fear and courage. Through it all, Naeli never lost her humanity. She continued to help those in need quietly, offering assistance without seeking reward. She nurtured her brother, maintained her dignity, and held on to hope for the future. She had learned that survival was not just about avoiding danger. It was about understanding the world, finding small ways to make it better, and preparing for the moments when true opportunity would appear. By the end of this period, Naeli had transformed. She was still a captive, still living under threat, but she was no longer helpless. She had gained the respect of some captors, navigated complex relationships, and developed a keen understanding of human behavior. Her mind was sharp, her spirit resilient, and her heart determined. She was ready for the challenges that lay ahead, knowing that each day offered new lessons and new possibilities. And in the quiet moments, when she looked at her brother sleeping peacefully, Naeli knew that her journey was just beginning. She had built trust, gained insight, and discovered the power of patience and intelligence. One day, she hoped, These lessons would allow her not only to survive but to reclaim her life and honor her past. Until then, she would continue to serve, to observe, and to prepare for the moment when opportunity came. Time in the camp had a rhythm, yet it never lost its dangers. Nayeli had grown skilled at observing and surviving, but she also knew that safety in this place was never guaranteed. Each day, she moved with careful precision, thinking 2 steps ahead, always aware that one small mistake could endanger her life or her brother's. By now, Nayeli had earned a cautious trust from Tavan and some of the other captors. She completed tasks with precision, anticipated needs, and quietly helped maintain order among the camp's captives. Yet, she remained vigilant. She had learned that jealousy and suspicion could strike at any moment. Some captors whispered doubts about her loyalty. Nayeli listened, but she never reacted. She had learned that silence, patience, and subtlety were her greatest allies. One morning, news arrived that a rival group of warriors was approaching. The camp was on high alert. Tavan called a meeting of the leaders and captives he trusted. Nayeli observed quietly as strategies were discussed, noticing the fears, ambitions, and weaknesses of those around her. She realized that this crisis could be an opportunity, not just for survival, but to demonstrate her courage and intelligence in ways that might solidify her place and create possibilities for the future. Tavan, who had begun to respect Nayeli's judgment, called her aside. "I need someone who can act carefully, who can observe without being noticed, and who can relay information to me. Can I trust you to do this?" Nayeli's heart beat faster. This was dangerous, but it was also a chance to prove herself further. She nodded firmly. "Yes," she said. "I will do my best." Her first task was to scout the surrounding area, observing the approaching group without being detected. Nayeli moved quietly through the woods, her senses alert to every sound, every shadow. She watched the rival warriors from a distance, noting their numbers, weapons, and strategy. Every detail she recorded in her mind, knowing that this information could make the difference between safety and disaster for the camp. After returning to the camp, Nayeli reported her observations to Tavan. He listened intently, asking questions and considering her suggestions carefully. She realized that her knowledge had value beyond mere service. It was becoming a tool for influence. Tavan acted on her advice, adjusting the camp's defenses and preparing for potential conflict. Nayeli felt a quiet sense of accomplishment, but she remained cautious. The stakes were high, and one misstep could undo everything she had built. As preparations continued, Nayeli also began to help other captives. She quietly taught them ways to move safely, avoid danger, and observe their surroundings without attracting attention. Some captives were hesitant at first, but they began to trust her guidance. She realized that helping others strengthened her position, not just because it gained their trust, but because it allowed her to see how people behaved under stress, revealing patterns and weaknesses that could be useful. One evening, as the camp settled into a tense quiet, Nayeli noticed a small group of captors arguing. Their voices were low, but she could hear fragments of their conversation. They were discussing plans that could affect the safety of the camp and the outcome of the approaching conflict. Nayeli listened carefully, committing every word to memory. She understood that knowledge of these internal disputes could be a powerful tool if handled correctly. The next few days were tense. Nayeli moved carefully, completing her duties while observing the captors and the approaching threat. She noticed small cracks in their discipline, guard rotations that were inconsistent, supplies that were vulnerable, and minor disagreements among leaders. She stored this information, thinking carefully about how it could be used if needed. Her mind was constantly at work, balancing survival, influence, and the protection of her brother and fellow captives. Then, a sudden crisis struck. A portion of the rival group attacked the camp's outer perimeter, creating chaos. Nayeli's heart raced as she moved quickly, helping where she could. She guided captives to safer areas, moved supplies out of harm's way, and quietly relayed information to Tavon about enemy positions. Her careful observation and quick action proved crucial. The camp survived the initial attack with minimal losses, and Tavon's respect for her grew. In the aftermath, Nayeli realized that courage was as important as intelligence. She had acted decisively, balancing risk with careful planning. Yet she also understood the fragility of her position. Every act of bravery had to be measured against potential consequences. She had survived so far, but the future was still uncertain. Over the following weeks, Nayeli continued to navigate the camp carefully. She strengthened her alliances with captives who could be trusted, observed captors' routines, and prepared quietly for opportunities that might arise. Her skills in observation, intelligence gathering, and quiet influence became increasingly valuable. She had moved beyond mere survival. She was shaping her environment, though always carefully and cautiously. One day, Tavon approached her again. "You have proven yourself beyond what I expected," he said. "There are tasks that require discretion, intelligence, and courage. I need you to take on these responsibilities." Nayeli bowed respectfully. "I will do my best," she said. She understood that this trust was both an opportunity and a challenge. Her actions could strengthen her position, or, if mishandled, bring danger. As Nayeli took on new responsibilities, she also began to consider long-term plans. She thought about her village, her family, and the life she had lost. She thought about the captives she had helped, and the small ways she had influenced events in the camp. She realized that her survival depended not just on obedience, but on intelligence, patience, and courage. She began to imagine a future where she could act more decisively, where her careful preparation could turn opportunity into freedom. Her relationship with her brother remained central. She taught him the skills she had learned, preparing him to survive and thrive in this dangerous environment. She shared knowledge about observation, caution, and patience, knowing that he would need these skills to navigate a world that was often cruel and unpredictable. Together, they became a quiet team, relying on one another for guidance, protection, and emotional support. One night, Nayeli noticed Tavon speaking with another leader about a potential threat to the camp. The conversation was tense, and Nayeli sensed that danger was imminent. She quietly observed, taking mental notes, and considered how she might prepare for the worst. Her mind worked tirelessly, balancing caution with action, observation with preparation. She knew that survival depended on both intelligence and courage, and that one without the other could be deadly. In the days that followed, Nayeli tested her skills further. She acted in small ways that required courage, moving supplies through dangerous areas, helping captives avoid punishment, and observing enemy movements at greater risk to herself. Each act strengthened her position and built her confidence. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. The turning point came when the rival group launched a larger attack, targeting the camp directly. Nayeli moved quickly, guiding captives to safety, relaying information to Tavon, and taking calculated risks to protect the camp's resources. Her careful observation and timely actions helped the captors respond effectively, and many lives were saved. Tavon recognized her contributions, and for the first time, Nayeli felt a sense of true agency. She had influenced events, protected others, and acted with courage under pressure. After the attack, Nayeli reflected on her journey. She had fallen to her knees once, begging for her life, but now she was a central figure in the camp's survival. She had learned to navigate complex relationships, balance risk and caution, and act decisively when needed. She had discovered the power of observation, intelligence, and courage, and had begun to see that even in captivity, she could shape her world. Yet Nayeli knew that the challenges were far from over. Each day brought new risks, and the trust she had earned was fragile. She understood that her position depended on continued vigilance, careful planning, and the ability to act decisively when opportunity arose. She was no longer merely surviving. She was preparing for the moment when she could reclaim her life, protect her brother, and perhaps influence events beyond the camp. Through all of this, Nayeli's spirit remained unbroken. She had discovered her own strength, intelligence, and courage. She had learned to survive, adapt, and influence even in the most dangerous circumstances. Her journey had transformed her, preparing her for challenges that she could not yet fully imagine. And in the quiet moments, when she watched the stars and held her brother close, Nayeli knew that she was ready. Ready to face the dangers ahead, ready to act with courage and intelligence, and ready to seize the opportunities that life might present. She had fallen to her knees once, but she had risen, stronger and wiser, and she would continue to rise, no matter what challenges came next. The days after the attack passed slowly, but Nayeli felt a new sense of purpose. She had survived dangers she never imagined, gained the respect of Tavon, and quietly influenced the safety of the camp. Yet, even with her growing position, her thoughts remained on freedom. She longed to see her village, to honor the memory of her family, and to reclaim a life that had been stolen from her. Nayeli knew that survival was no longer enough. She needed to find a way to regain control over her destiny. Her first step was careful observation. Nayeli watched the routines of the captors, noting which guards were alert and which were careless, which paths were least monitored, and where small gaps in the camp's defenses might exist. She studied Tavon's habits, the movements of his lieutenants, and the alliances among them. Every detail was important, and Nayeli stored each in her mind like precious treasure. Knowledge had become her greatest weapon, and patience was her strongest ally. At the same time, Nayeli strengthened her relationships with other captives. She helped them quietly, offering guidance on how to avoid punishment and how to move safely within the camp. She shared skills she had learned, how to observe without being noticed, how to anticipate dangers, and how to protect themselves in subtle ways. In helping others, Nayeli not only ensured their safety, but she also built allies who could support her plans when the time came. She understood that liberation was not something she could achieve alone. It would require careful coordination, trust, and courage. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Nayeli overheard Tavon discussing plans to expand the camp's influence into nearby territories. The captors spoke of moving quickly, using force where necessary, and relying on strategy to gain advantage. Nayeli listened carefully, noting every detail. She realized that this expansion could create both danger and opportunity. If handled wisely, she could use this moment to create a path toward freedom for herself and those she cared about. Nayeli began to plan cautiously. She identified the safest times to move, the routes that could avoid detection, and the key individuals whose cooperation could ensure success. She knew that any mistake could be fatal. Yet she also felt a quiet thrill, the possibility of taking control, of shaping her own future after so many months of uncertainty and danger. She had learned that courage, intelligence, and patience could work together to create opportunities, even in the most difficult circumstances. Her brother remained at the center of her decisions. Nayeli knew she could not risk his safety lightly. She taught him how to stay quiet, how to follow instructions carefully, and how to observe without drawing attention. Together, they practiced small movements, planning how they might navigate the camp if the moment for action arrived. Nayeli's sense of responsibility was immense, but it also gave her strength. Protecting her brother gave her courage and clarity, reminding her why survival and freedom mattered more than anything. The decisive moment came unexpectedly. One night, a small group of captors became distracted, arguing over a minor issue. Nayeli noticed the opening immediately. She gathered the few captives she trusted, whispered instructions, and led them quietly through the least guarded path. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to remain calm. Every step had to be measured, every sound controlled, every movement precise. They moved through the camp like shadows, avoiding patrols and carefully following the path Nayeli had memorized. Her mind was alert to every possible danger, but she also relied on the training she had given herself and others over the months. Observation, patience, and courage guided her. She whispered words of reassurance to her brother and the other captives, reminding them to stay calm and focused. As they neared the edge of the camp, Nayeli noticed the last obstacle, a guard stationed near the main exit. She observed his routine, noting the moments when he shifted attention or looked away. Timing was everything. When the moment came, Nayeli moved swiftly and quietly, guiding the group past the guard without a sound. Her careful planning and observation had paid off. They were almost free. Beyond the camp, the wilderness awaited. Nayeli led the group through the forest, choosing paths that avoided visibility and danger. She relied on her knowledge of the land, learned from her family before the raid, to navigate safely. The forest was both a challenge and a protector, hiding them from pursuit while testing their endurance. Nayeli encouraged the group to move steadily, conserving energy and staying alert. Her leadership was calm, strong, and precise. Days passed as they traveled, surviving on small amounts of food, fresh water, and careful planning. Nayeli's training in observation and patience guided every decision. They avoided paths that might be monitored, moved quietly during the night, and rested only when they were certain they were safe. Her brother followed her lead, gaining confidence and skills under her guidance. The group grew stronger with each passing day, relying on Nayeli's judgment and experience. Finally, after several days of cautious travel, they reached the outskirts of Nayeli's former village. The sight of familiar hills, trees, and streams filled her with emotion. The village had been changed by the attack, but it was still home. Nayeli approached cautiously, scanning the area for signs of danger. She wanted to ensure that the path back was safe before leading the others. Her patience and careful observation had carried them this far, and she knew that one misstep now could undo everything. As they entered the village, Nayeli saw the remnants of homes, the burned-out structures, and the signs of struggle. Her heart ached at the memory of what had been lost, but she also felt a quiet sense of triumph. They had survived, they had escaped, and they had returned to the land that had shaped her. Nayeli knew that rebuilding would take time, courage, and effort, but she also knew that they had a chance to reclaim their lives. In the following days, Nayeli and her group began to repair the village. They rebuilt homes, cleared debris, and planted crops. Nayeli's leadership and careful planning proved invaluable. She had survived unimaginable danger, gained knowledge and skill, and now applied them to restore life to a place that had been scarred by violence. Her brother learned alongside her, growing stronger and wiser with each passing day. Yet Nayeli never forgot the lessons of her captivity. She remained cautious, aware of the fragility of safety, and vigilant against potential threats. She understood that survival required intelligence, patience, and courage, lessons that had been learned through months of challenge and danger. She also understood the importance of community, trust, and helping others. The bonds she had formed with captives during her escape were strengthened as they worked together to rebuild the village. Through it all, Nayeli experienced a transformation. She was no longer just a girl who had fallen to her knees in fear. She had become a leader, a protector, and a strategist. Her courage, intelligence, and careful observation had carried her through the most difficult circumstances, and now they guided her as she helped others reclaim their lives. She had learned that true strength was not just physical but mental and emotional, rooted in patience, courage, and the determination to act wisely. As months passed, the village slowly regained life. Families returned, homes were rebuilt, and children once again played in the dirt paths. Nayeli and her brother found a sense of peace, though they carried the memories of the past with them. Nayeli taught the next generation the skills she had learned: observation, caution, and courage, ensuring that the lessons of survival and resilience were passed on. One evening, Nayeli stood on a hill overlooking the village, her brother beside her. The sun set in brilliant colors, painting the sky with light and hope. She thought of the journey they had undertaken, the fear, the struggle, the careful planning, and the courage it had taken to escape. She remembered falling to her knees, begging for her life, and realized how far she had come. Her spirit had endured, grown, and transformed. Nayeli understood that life would continue to bring challenges, but she also knew that she had the skills, intelligence, and courage to face them. She had reclaimed her freedom, protected her brother, and helped rebuild a community that had once been destroyed. Her journey had been long and difficult, but it had taught her the power of resilience, patience, and careful action. In the quiet of that evening, Nayeli felt a sense of completeness. She had survived the unimaginable, learned the ways of the world, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable. She had transformed her fear into courage, her observation into strategy, and her survival into leadership. She had risen from the moment she had fallen to her knees, and now she looked forward with determination, hope, and confidence. And in her heart, Nayeli knew that this was only the beginning. She had faced the darkest moments, but she had endured and triumphed. Her story was one of survival, courage, and transformation, a testament to the strength of a young woman who refused to surrender her spirit, even when the world seemed determined to break her. Nayeli had survived, she had learned, and she had risen, ready to meet whatever challenges life might bring.